ROI, return on investment. We all want it, and we want to prove it before we implement anything new. Magtec offers our fleet partners a significant, tangible, and immediate ROI. This short presentation will explain how implementing Magtec's market-leading transportation solutions can reduce your fleet fuel consumption, enforce driver compliance, performance, and productivity, mitigate your safety and risk exposure, and eliminate asset and cargo theft. That's right, eliminate asset and cargo theft. Let's start with fuel. Despite ever-rising prices, it's an absolute necessity and makes up a significant chunk of your operating expenses. So, how do you reduce your fuel costs? Well, meet Mike. He's the COO of Any Fleet Trucking. The company operates a 60-unit fleet, carrying a wide array of dry freight, from food and pharmaceuticals to high-value electronics and tobacco. Mike knows if he could just get his drivers to slow down a little, even by only a few miles per hour, any fleet could save a bundle. But how much? Well, check out this math. Each of Mike's trucks travels, on average, 125,000 miles per year. Mike's annual fuel cost is in the neighborhood of $68,000 per year per truck. On top of that, today's trucks use an extra 1/10 of a gallon of fuel for every mile per hour over 55 miles per hour. It all adds up to expensive. Then Mike heard from Magtec and was sold on the fuel savings that he could enforce across the fleet. Magtec gives Mike the ability to remotely log into any of his fleet vehicles anywhere in North America and set the maximum speeds from his desk. Today, the same 60-unit fleet traveling the same miles per year is now restricted to maximum speeds set by Mike. By remotely managing his fleet with Magtec's onboard system, Mike is able to reduce the company's highway fuel consumption by approximately $3,400 per unit and save the company over $200,000 per year. Now that's ROI. Okay, check this out. Since Mike's fleet travels across dozens of different states and regional jurisdictions, he has to worry about all the different legal posted speed limits and thus safety and liability risks with his drivers. With Magtec's technology, his trucks going into a jurisdiction that requires onboard speed limiters no longer have to stop and reset the speed governors at a third-party shop. Magtec allows Mike to set the maximum speed settings for each of his trucks based on geography. So when one of his trucks crosses the border from, say, Idaho, where the speed limit is 75, to Oregon, where the speed limit drops to 65, with Magtec, Mike can manually reset the maximum speed in that truck, all in real time. Magtec eliminates the human factor and reduces your fleet's risk. Magtec eliminates Mike's company's dependency on third-party service centers to reset governors in order to comply with local or regional legislation requiring speed limiters. What does that mean for the bottom line? Well, with 360 round trips into mandated speed limiter jurisdictions each year, any fleet saves an estimated $36,000 per year. Now that's ROI. In any given year, a long-haul trucker can idle more than 1,800 hours or 150 hours per month. With today's high cost of fuel, a Class 7 or 8 truck's idling costs can exceed $8,600 per year. These aren't Magtec's numbers. They come from the U.S. Department of Energy's Argonne National Laboratory, which developed a formula for calculating engine idle time. So let's apply it to Any Fleet Trucking. Each of Any Fleet's 60 trucks are currently averaging 100 hours of idle time per month. And with diesel fuel clocking in at, well, expensive, idling costs Any Fleet an average of $5,700 per year per truck. Now, after installing Magtec's technology to the fleet, those costs are dramatically reduced. You see, Mike can remotely set the maximum idle time for a specific truck or right across the entire fleet, no matter where those trucks are located. So whether a unit is sitting at a truck stop in Florida, in Ohio, or even California, Magtec's technology sets the maximum idle time instantly. So Mike chose to set the maximum idle times across his 60-unit fleet using Magtec, and by reducing his fleet's idle time by 25%, that represents an annual savings of $1,425 per truck per year. So with a mouse click, any fleet will save nearly $86,000 in fuel costs annually just by reducing unnecessary idling. Now that is ROI. As commercial fleet operators, you know there is a lot to lose sleep about. We worry about who's actually behind the wheel of our trucks, if they're speeding, if they're driving aggressively, if they're driving in dangerous weather conditions, if they're off route, if they're driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Are they staying with the truck, or are they leaving it unattended? The fact is, many commercial fleets depend solely on their drivers when it comes to safety and compliance. Those drivers become security guards. Magtec helps you sleep better by allowing you to remotely control your trucks and your drivers 24/7, anywhere. As we heard earlier in this presentation, Magtec can remotely control the maximum speeds of the vehicles no matter where they are located. Mike loves this because it reduces fuel costs and his liability exposure and risk. In order to operate Mike's trucks, each of his drivers must enter a unique PIN on Magtec's dash-mounted keypad. This way, any fleet always knows who's driving, where they are, when they were there, and for how long. Mike also receives email alerts of breaches in real time, and he can remotely shut down a truck and its driver for aggressive or irresponsible behavior. Cargo theft continues to grow at an alarming rate. Consumer items like food, pharmaceuticals, clothing, computers, and cigarettes are all common targets. Thanks to a tough economy and antiquated security measures that rely on people, theft of consumer products alone is up 575% in just 5 years. Every load is at risk. A stolen load equals huge costs. Recovery efforts, recalls, hikes in insurance premiums and deductibles, loss of equipment, and a damaged reputation. Last year, before installing his fleet with Magtec, any fleet ran into some theft trouble. One of his drivers pulled into a truck stop for dinner and a shower just before 7 p.m., leaving his tractor, trailer, and cargo of baby formula locked, but unattended for about 1 hour. That driver returns, discovers the truck is gone. In a panic, he calls his dispatcher, who calls the security department at any fleet, who finds out that the last GPS signal the company had was at 7:14 that evening, when it was still at the truck stop. Why doesn't any fleet know where the truck is? Well, the GPS tracking device on the truck was disabled by the thieves. It happens all the time. And now, over $500,000 of baby formula is gone. Mike has to now call the police, figure out a way to get his driver home, notify the shipper its baby formula has been stolen, and the fun part, notify any fleet's insurance company of the bad news. That's a $100,000 deductible on the cargo, a $95,000 loss on the truck, and loss of that shipper's business, which to any fleet was about $400,000 per year. Ouch. Together, this theft cost any fleet just under $200,000 and a black eye on its business record. Enter Magtec. Imagine never losing another vehicle to theft. What would that do to your business? Mike and any fleet installed Magtec's advanced vehicle security management and tracking technology to his fleet, and since the truck cannot be stolen with this covert Magtec system installed, any fleet no longer has experienced a theft. Mike could have prevented that baby formula loss and the theft of its truck and trailer, and more importantly, any fleet retains its customer and continues to grow its business. Now that is ROI. And here's yet another key Magtec benefit that saves you money. Thanks to Magtec's market-leading security technology, any fleet doesn't need team drivers anymore for high-value short lanes. In the past, fleets would need 2 drivers so that if they stopped, one driver would always stay with the load. But that costs money and doesn't always work. Magtec allows for complete vehicle security even when the truck is left idling while unattended. Never lose another vehicle to theft and always have control. Now that's ROI. Finally, let's consider vehicle monitoring. Any fleet currently employs a team to monitor their passive GPS tracking system for their 60-unit fleet around the clock. Mike's monitoring team must follow strict guidelines in order to detect breaches. That way, the team can intervene as quickly as possible to mitigate risks associated with any breach. Last year, any fleet system coordinator, working 5 days a week, and monitoring staff, working 7 days a week, cost Mike's company over $156,000 per year, or about $13,000 per month. This is an unnecessary cost and approach in managing and tracking in-transit assets and cargoes. This year, after installing Magtec's technology, Mike reassigned most of those staffers to revenue-generating activities because he eliminated the need of having to constantly monitor the fleet's assets, drivers, and cargoes. That's because Magtec eliminates the human equation by proactively monitoring the truck, the driver, the routes, the location, and automatically sends tamper-proof breach alerts, geo-route breaches, and incident notifications in real time to any fleet security or operations team. So this year, any fleet will save monitoring costs by nearly $1,800 per truck per year. That's $106,500 in savings across the fleet every year. Now that's ROI. To find out how your fleet can benefit by saving a significant amount of money on fuel, driver compliance, theft-related costs, operational efficiencies, and insurance, while at the same time increasing your company's revenue, contact Magtec. Find out how your company can save money and offer differentiating benefits to your customers.